Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. Today in this video we are going to start a new tutorial series in which we will learn about PHP and MySQL. So to start this tutorial series you need two things. One is Visual Studio Code, so which you can download it from here, code.visualstudio.com, and the other one is XAMPP server, which you can download from apachefriends.org. Now the installation of these two tools are very simple. When you download the executable, you run it and it will automatically take you through the installation steps. Now I have installed both of them. So first we will start this Apache XAMPP server. So we need two things. We need to start this Apache which has this PHP, because we are using PHP, and we need to install MySQL, which is this one. So we install start both of them as I have started this. So now I will minimize this, and now we are in our Visual Studio Code. So now we will create a file. So new file, and it will ask us to select a language. So I'll click on this and we will select search here for PHP, and I'll select this, and now I'll control S this. Now I have to save this file into a XAMPP htdocs. So if you have installed the XAMPP server, by default is installation is in the C drive, and if you have installed it in another drive, so you have to go there. So I'll click on this, and now if I go to my C drive, C, and now if I go down, so here we have this XAMPP, and here we have this htdocs. So I'll open this, and now I'll name this MySQL example.php, and now I'll save. Now our MySQL example.php file is created. So we will write our PHP and HTML script here. So first we will start with the HTML tag. So HTML, and now I'll close this. Then we will close this tag as well. So I'll come down, make some space, and now I'll close HTML here, and now our HTML tag is closed. So now I will create a head tag, and now I'll close this head tag as well. So I'll close it here. Now the head is closed. So now we will have a title in this head tag. So title, and now I have to close the title, and now I'll close the title tag as well. Now inside this I can show a title. So I'll use connecting to MySQL and PHP. So now we have created the title. Now I will create here down this head the body tag. So I'll use body, and I'll close it down, and now we will create its closing tag as well. So now we have created the closing tag for the body. Now inside this we will create our PHP script. So now here I'll create the PHP script called PHP, and now I'll press enter, and now we have to close this as well, this PHP tag. So for that I will use shift question mark and then closing tag. Now our PHP tag is created. So now inside this we will create our host, as we are using a local server, so we will use localhost. So I'll use $db host. So in this way we create variables with $sign and this then the name. So this is a variable. Now I'll use equal, and here I will put single quotes and local host, because Apache is our local server here in the XAMPP. So that is why we are using on this local machine. So we are using local host. Now then we will be using db user. So db user is I have forgot the $sign, so I'll put a $sign here. Now I'll use equal, and db user is root, because we haven't created any other user, so we are using the root user of the database. And now I'll put semicolon here. Now we are going to mention here the password. So db pass user password. This is db user password, so we are not using any password, so I'll put empty and now I'll put semicolon. So now we have created our variable. So now we will connect to this local host. So for that I'll use dollar MySQL equals, and now here we will use new MySQL, and here we will pass in our db host. So dollar db host comma, and then we will use db user and db user, and then we will pass in the db password. So it is dollar db pass. So now as we have provided these, and now I'll put semicolon here. Now and later in this tutorial series we will provide the database name as well, but right now we are connecting only to the server. So we are not going to connect to any specific database, so that is why we are not mentioning the database here. Now we will use f dollar MySQL connect error underscore error, this one. So then we will print a message. So we will use here print f, and here we will pass in connection failed, and now we will concatenate at the end of, we will put a comma here, and we will use dollar MySQL and then connect error, this one, and now I'll put semicolon. Now here I will pass in connected, and now I'll put a semicolon here at the end of this, and then I will use dollar MySQL and then arrow and then close, and now we will close it here. I forgot a line here, so here if the connection fails, so we will exit, and now I'll put semicolon here. Now our code is complete, so now we have to run this. So I'll go to this browser, and here I'll search for localhost, and then we will provide our file name. So our file name is, if I go here, so our file name is MySQL example.php. So I'll come here, MySQL example.php, and now if I hit enter, nothing is showing up here. So we'll come to our file, and I'll control it to save this, because it is not working because we haven't saved this. Now if I MySQL example.php, and now if I hit enter, now you can see here connected successfully. So we have connected to MySQL localhost and PHP. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the second part of our PHP MySQL tutorial series. In this part we will be creating a database in MySQL using the PHP script. So if I show you the PHP MySQL database, so we have these databases here. Now we will be executing a query from our PHP script, and we will be creating a database here. So for that I will come here to this Visual Studio Code, and after this connected successfully, we will write some lines of code here. So here I will use f dollar MySQL and then arrow query, and here we will pass in the query and create database, and here I will pass in the database as tutorial, and now we will go inside this f statement. So I will put curly braces here, and now here I will print f, this one, and here we will pass in database created successfully, and then I will use br, and now I'll put semicolon at the end of this, and now I'll go down outside of this curly brace, and here if I will use f my dollar MySQL, and now if it is an error, this one, then do what? Then print f could not create database, and then I'll use here br, and I'll close this br tag, and then I will concatenate here MySQL, not concatenate, but we have to use here comma dollar MySQL error, it will show the error, and now I'll put semicolon here. Now I'll control it here, as I have showed you here that we do not have test tutorial here. So now I'll go to this file localhost MySQL example.php, and I will refresh it. Now you can see that here database created successfully. So now if I go to this PHP MyAdmin, which is MySQL, and now if I refresh this, now you can see test tutorials of database is created here. So we have created a database from our PHP script into MySQL database. So I think that's all for today. I hope you like the video, and if you like the video, please like, subscribe and comment, and in the next video we will be learning about dropping the database. We will be learning about dropping database from our PHP script into MySQL database. So in our previous tutorial we have write this code and we have created this database. So for dropping the database, the code is the same, but only we have to change the query. So from instead of this create, I will use here drop, and the rest is the same, and I will use here database dropped successfully and could not drop database. Now I'll control it this, and now we will go to our browser, and as you can see we have this test tutorials here, and if I go to the script, we are dropping this test tutorial. Now I'll go to the browser and to a new tab, and I will use localhost successfully, and database dropped successfully. Now if I go here to this localhost PHP admin, and now if you can see it is here, but if I refresh this, now you can see test tutorials database is dropped successfully. So we have dropped the database successfully, as we have connected here to our database successfully. So the rest of the code is a bit different. So I'll remove this code up to here. Now up to here, we connect to our database, and if it is an error occurs, so it print the error here, and here we are connecting, it is printing this message if we connect successfully. Now I'll go down, and here we will be selecting a database from our databases in MySQL. This is our databases, so I'll select this testdb. So for that I will come to this code, and here we will write some more script of PHP. So here I will use dollar, and I'll name it db select equals. Now here we will use MySQL underscore select underscore db, and here we have to pass two things. One is the connection, so I'll use dollar MySQL, which is our connection, and then I'll pass in the database name that we are going to connect. So I'll pass testdb. Now I'll put semicolon at the end. So here I'll use f not dollar db select. If db is not selected, so then do what? Then show us the error. So I'll use here die, and here could not select database, and now I'll put here or concatenate here the error. So MySQL underscore error, and here I'll pass in the dollar MySQL, and now I'll put semicolon here. Now else outside of this I'll print f, and here I'll pass in database selected, and at the end I will give bo, and now I'll put semicolon at the end, and now I'll control S it. Now our code is complete. So I'll go to our browser, and now to this, and now I'll refresh this. Now you can see database selected successfully is shown, so which means in this code we have successfully selected this testdb database. A new variable db name, and I will use single quotes here, and now I'll put semicolon here. Now we will go to our PHP admin here, and we will create, check this, we will create a new table in this testdb. We have db table and test table, and this testdb we will create another table as well. So for that I'll come to Visual Studio Code, and here I'll name this testdb. So we are using testdb database. So now to connect to this database, I have to pass this database right here at the end of this MySQL. So here I will use dollar db name, this one, and now the rest of the code is correct. So if it is connected, now I'll come down here. So if it is connected, so we will create a query here and we will execute that query. So I'll use $SQL equal to create table. And here I will provide the table name. So table name I will give is table person, and now we will create single small brackets, and here inside this small brackets we will provide the column name. So the first will be id int, and then we will provide the name, which is worker, and I'll give it 50 length, and now the other one will be f name, and we will father name, which means, and we will provide worker 50 to this as well. I'll create a space for car and then 50. Now our three columns are created, so I'll put a semicolon at the end. Now we will execute this query. So I'll use f dollar MySQL and then query, and now inside this query we will pass in the dollar $SQL, then do what if this is successfully executed. So print f, and here we will pass in table created successfully, and I'll use the BR as well, and now I'll put semicolon at the end, and we will use my dollar MySQL error, then do what print f, and here we'll pass in table not created, and then we will also pass in dollar MySQL and error, and now I'll put semicolon at the end. Now I'll control S it. Now this is done. So now I'll go here. Now we will create a new tab and localhost my SQL example.php, and now if I hit enter, so now it is saying table create successfully. So now if I go to this PHP MyAdmin, so as you can see we have only these two tables, but if I refresh this, now you can see table person is created. Now if I expand this, and now if I click on these columns, now you can see ID, name and fname columns are created. Now if I double click on this table, so now you can see here ID, name and fname. So we have created the table with query. If I go here to this browser, so we have created this table persons in our previous tutorial. Now today we will drop it. So for that I will come to this code. So this code is perfect. We have to only change the query. So here we are creating variables, and here we are connecting to our server and database, and here we are showing a message that we are successfully connected, and here we are creating the table. So I have to only use here drop, and I'll remove all of this from here, these small brackets, up to this table name. Now drop table table person, now table dropped successfully, and table not dropped, and now the rest of the code is perfect. It will work fine. So I'll control S this, and now we will go to our browser. Now I'll go close this, and I will create a new tab, and here I will use localhost my SQL example.php, and now if I hit enter, now table dropped successfully. Now if I come here to the localhost PHP admin tab, and now you can see it exists here. But if I refresh this, now you can see the table disappeared, so it is dropped. Now today we are going to insert some data into our testdb database, and we will be inserting data into this db table, which has this id, name, and father name. So if I go to this Visual Studio Code, so here we are connecting to the database, and here when the connection is successful, we are printing this message. So now I'll remove this code from here, and I'll backspace this. Now we will create a new query here. So $SQL equals. Now we will write the insert query, but before inserting the query, so I'll create some variables here. So I'll use $id equals 1 semicolon, and then $name equals MIK semicolon, and then $father name, if name equals to Khan, and I'll put semicolon. So now we are going to insert these values. So now we will write the query. So I'll use insert into db table, which is our table name, and then we will mention the columns name. So the column names inside this small bracket. So id, name, and comma f name. If we check it again, if I come here, so it is id, name, and f name. As you can see the column names here. Now I'll go again, and now after this here I'll use values, and now here we will pass in the values. So I have to concatenate the values, so I'll go out of this double quote. So I'll put in a dot, and then I'll use $id, and then I will put in a dot, and then double quotes, and then I'll pass in the single quote, and then dot, and then not single quote. So this concatenation is quite confusing, so I'll use the simplest way. So I'll come here and I will close this small bracket. Now inside this I will use double quotes, and then dot, and then $id. Now similarly I'll put a comma here at the end, and then I will use double quotes, as this value is varchar. The first value is integer, so we do not need to enclose it in single quotes, so we have to enclose this in single quotes. So I'll use single quote, and then I will use dot, and it is not showing the value, so I'll remove the single quotes and dot, and then dollar name, and then I'll put a comma here, and now we will use double quotes, and then dot, and then I'll use $f name. As we know that this name and father name are varchar values, we have to enclose it in single quote. So I'll use here single quote, and now before this comma single quote, and after this comma single quote, and here as well single quote. Now we are good to go. Now we will execute this query. So I'll go down, and here I will use $MySQL, this one, and $MySQL, then arrow query, and now I'll pass in the $SQL. If this is successful, so do what? Printf data inserted, and we will at the end we will use br, close this, and now I'll put semicolon here. We have an error, so I will check this. If $MySQL error. So then do what? Curly braces and printf, and now data not inserted, and here we will use br, and here we will use comma dollar mysqli, and then and now we will put semicolon at the end, and now I'll control S it. Now, as you can see, you knew that this file MySQL example is saved in XAMPP htdocs. So now we can run it through localhost. So I'll come here and we will use localhost MySQL example.php, and now if I hit enter, you can see it has shown connected successfully and data inserted successfully. Now we will go to our database and we will check our DB table, and so that if we have this record inserted or not. So I'll come here. Now you can see one MIK and Han is inserted here. Now we will insert another record and we will check this again. Now I will make this 2, and I'll MIK go, and I'll make this on sir, and now I'll control S it again. And now if I go to this, and now if I come to this file, and now if I rerun it, now it is again showing the same message. And now if I refresh this, you can see we have the second record in my KQL enhancer. So in this way you can insert data into our database using PHP. This is our connection code. So we are currently connecting to this DB, and when the connection is successful, this message is shown. Now down here we will write a query which will select all records from our table. So if I show you here, we have this DB table and we have these two records in it, MIK Khan and 2 MIK Gul Khan sir. So we will retrieve them and show them. So now I'll first write the query here. So $isCable equals, and here I will use select static from DB table, and I'll put semicolon. Now we have to execute this query. So for that I will come here and I will use dollar result equals MySQL and dollar MySQL, which we have created here, this connection. So dollar MySQL and then arrow query, and here I will pass in the dollar SQL, and now I'll put semicolon at the end. Now when this is executed, so we will have all the records in this result. So first we will check this result. So if dollar result num underscore row is greater than 0. So if we have, here we are checking if we have any record, then we will have more than one rows. So if row is 0, then we do not have any record. So we are checking here if number of rows is greater than 0 in this result. So then do what? While, we will use while loop because we have multiple rows. So we will use while loop to fetch all the rows. So while dollar row equals dollar result, and then we will use this, and then fetch sock, and we will close this, and then we will use curly braces at the end. And now here we will get each record, and we will from this row, and we will echo them. So I'll use echo and here I'll use single quotes, and then I'll use ID equals space, and then I will use dollar row, and now I'll pass in here inside double quotes ID, and then we will use dot, and I will use a single quote, and I will use space name equals and space, then dot dollar row. Now the second column is name, so we will use here name, and then I will use again dot and single quotes, and then I will make a space, and then f name equals space dot dollar f name, not f name, dollar row, and inside this we will check for f name column, and now I'll use a dot here, and then single quotes, and then I will make a space, and then we will use br, and I'll close the br, and now I'll put semicolon in the end, and now I'll control S it. Now I will come out of this, and then I will use here else, and now curly braces, and now I'll use here I will use no record found, and now I'll put semicolon here, and now I'll go out of this, and now right here I'll free the result, so MySQL underscore free result, and here I'll pass in the dollar result, and now I'll put semicolon. Now I'll control S the code. Now we will go to our browser, and now we will create a new tab, and I will search here localhost, and now I'll use MySQL example.php, and now if I hit enter, now we have printed this, but we have an error in this while we are freeing this MySQL result. So I'll this line, we do not need to free this, and now I'll control S this, and now if we go again, and now if I refresh this, now you can see we have successfully retrieved both the records and shown here. Now if I show you the database table, this is the database table, and we have this data. A query, so dollar $SQL equals, and now let me first show you the tables. So I started them control panel, and I started Apache and PHP So now if I go to this browser, I have opened PHP and we have this test DB, and we have inserted and retrieved data from this DB table. Now if I show you this, now we have these two records, so we will update this second record. We will change the name and the f name to some other name. So I'll go to Visual Studio Code, and here we will write our query update, and then we have to provide our table name, so which is a DB table, and then we will use set, and we will use the name equals single quote, and we will provide the name here, so I'll provide Mudassir, and we will also update the father name, so I'll use comma f name equals and single quote, and here I will pass in Khan, and now I'll put semicolon at the end. Now we will execute this query, but we have missed one thing in this where clause, so where id equals 2, because we want to update only this second record with this id 2. So I'll go again to our PHP script, and now here I will use if dollar MySQL and query, and here I will pass in the dollar SQL. So dollar SQL, and then I'll printf, and here I will pass in record updated, and now I'll put semicolon, and if there is an error, so we will show the error. If dollar MySQL and error number, and then we will print f, and here we will pass in error occurred, and here I will be passing a comma, and now dollar MySQL, and then we will use error, and I'll put semicolon at the end, and now I'll control exit. Now this is MySQL example.php file. So I'll go to our browser, to this one. I'll open a new tab, and now here I will use localhost, this one, and now connected record updated. So now we will go to our PHP admin, and now if I refresh this, and let's see, now you can see the record is updated to Mudassir and father name to Khan. So let me first show you the record that we want to delete. So I'll go to this browser, and I opened PHP admin here, which is MySQL database, and we have this DB table inside this test DB, and we have these two records, MIK Khan and Mudassir Khan. So now we will be deleting this record number 2, and for that I will come to Visual Studio Code, and here we will first write a query. So dollar $SQL equals, and here I'll use delete from DB table, which is table name. You will be thinking that why we are not using the database here. So in query we do not use databases. Database is used for connection, and which we are using this test DB right here, DB name. So this variable hold this test DB database name, so we are using it here. So we are connected to this test DB database. So delete from DB table, we are ID equals 2. So this is our query. Now we will execute this query. So I'll use f dollar MySQL. So where is this MySQL coming from? So it is when we are here, we are creating the connection. So it is coming, we are assigning that connection to this MySQL. So MySQL, and then arrow, and query, and here we will pass in the dollar $SQL. Now when this is done, so I'll use curly braces, and here we will be printing the message. So print f, and here we will pass in record deleted, and now I'll put semicolon here, and now we will show if any error occurs. So we will show that error. So f dollar MySQL, and here I'll use this, and error, and now here we will be printing print f, and here I'll use could not delete the record, and now I'll put a comma, and we will be printing the error. So dollar MySQL, and now, and here we will use error, and we forgot a comma here, so we will put a comma here so that this error goes away. Now I'll put semicolon, and then now I'll control exit, and now we'll go to our browser here, and now we will create a new tab, and now we will be using local host / MySQL example.php, which is our file name. If I show you here, MySQL example.php, and now we will hit enter. Now record deleted. Now if I come here to this tab, PHP admin, which is MySQL database, and now if I refresh this, so in this video we will be learning about sorting the database data, or data from the table using query in PHP. So as you can see, we have these names in this table, but you can see that MIK is first and then it's Tanvir. So we want that this L letter number names are shown first and then the rest of them in a sorted way. So for that we will come to Visual Studio Code, and here we will be writing our code. So this is the code for the connection. Up to here we are connecting to database successfully. Now here we will write our query. So I'll use $SQL equals. And now we will be using select query, select id comma name comma fname, which is our column's name. If I show you here, id, name and fname, so these are our columns names. So I have selected all these columns from db table, which is our table name, and after this we will use order by. We want to arrange it in ascending order by name, so order by this column name. So we will use the column here name, and we will be using, if you want it in descending order, so you use DESC, and if you want it in ascending, so ASC. And now we will put semicolon at the end. Now our query is created. Now we will create a new variable $result equals, and now here we will execute our query. So $MySQL, and if I pass in here query, and if I pass in here $SQL, and now I'll put semicolon, and now I'll use f $result underscore num underscore rows is greater than 0. If we have anything in our result, any record in our result, so we will print it here, but we will get all these rows in a while loop. So while dollar row equals $result underscore fetch, it is not underscore, it is arrow, fetch this one associative array, then do what? We will put curly braces. It is here, it is arrow as well, so I'll use arrow, and now we will write our code here for echoing or printing the values. So I'll use echo, I'll use single quotes, and I'll use a space here, and then id, and then space, and I'll concatenate the id. So dollar, we will put a dot, and then we will use dollar row and square brackets, and inside this I'll pass in the id column, then I'll concatenate single quotes, and I'll use name, and here I'll concatenate the name column, so row, and here we will be using name, and then we will be concatenating the for fname, so fname equals, and here I'll use the fname $row, and here I will pass in fname the column, and then I'll use in the uh, double quotes, and I'll put semicolon at the end, and here I'll use show the next record on a new line. So I'll control exit, and now we will go down, and here we will use else echo and single quotes, no record found, and now I'll put semicolon at the end, and now I'll control exit. Now we will go to our browser, and I'll open a new tab as our XAMPP server is started. Here you can see Apache is started and MySQL as well. So I'll minimize this. So I'll use local host and MySQL example.php, and now if I hit enter, now you can see all the records are fetched and shown here, and it is in an ascending number by name. As you can see, Ali is shown, then Alibaba is shown, then Asad. First is it is shown in order alphabetically. First the A is shown, then M, then S, then T. So in this way we can sort records in a query in MySQL and PHP. So I hope you like the video. If you like the video, please like, subscribe, and comment. Thank you.